Great show. And producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
It's a lovely Wednesday edition of Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Trace Fowler, Elliot, Casey, and Reed. Reed, welcome back. Glad to have you in here this lovely Wednesday, Hump Day edition of Off the Bench. Hump Day. Were you a big fan of that commercial, Elliot?
I did like that commercial.
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny commercial. I thought they nailed it.
Those were some good commercials. I really did enjoy those commercials.
You ever see a camel?
Have I ever seen a camel in real life?
Yeah, you ever see a real camel?
No, but you know what's this goes to show you, no free ads, but this shows to show you the power of marketing.
Yeah.
Every time I think of a camel, I think of the cigarette company.
Oh.
Harborough?
Camel. But I'm just saying that, like that immediately is in my brain. Don't know why, but I guess when you're a kid and you
Well, I'll
see
tell
it,
you why. It's because the camel is the name of the thing.
well, and it's
So
good
you think
marketing.
Camel, and boom.
Some would say.
I said Harborough, so I'm way off.
Yeah. Completely wrong. By the way, I'm sure that there's some stipulations on whether or not you can even speak about tobacco products. Of course, as always, if you have whatever Ohio legality wants me to say right now,
Sure.
I'm putting it out into the world. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So there's that. We have a host of topics. Obviously, for those that stayed up late last night, it was the same song and dance that you've seen many, many times from Hunter Greene, unable to kind of get deep into the game. Also, didn't give up, a lot. I think it was one run, if you're doing the math at home. So can you blame him? Or do you expect your starter to be able to go more than 5 innings and throw, less than 110 pitches? I think that there'll be reasonable debate. I hope there's going to be reasonable debate on that topic. We have other topics to get to as well. Does MLB have an epidemic with MLB arm issues? Velocity. Is it going to become a severe problem where either the pitch clock's going to rear its ugly head and they're going to have to make a decision on that, or is it just part of the game now? It is what it is, as they say. And then we have some NFL draft. We just suggested, do we have enough time to talk about the NFL draft? Do we have enough material? Do you think we should talk about it? And we just sat there and talked about the NFL draft for the last 20 minutes before the show started, so I think that we probably do. Considering we just did a segment before our segment towards the end of that show. And we have the Brennan Men. Tom is joining us today. I think Marty is on vacation.
Traveling the world. He's a world traveler.
That's what you do when you have success in life and you retire and you have what's the phrase? The world is your oyster. Is that the appropriate term?
Yeah,
Can someone explain that to me?
What's the etymology of
yes.
the world is your oyster?
Which is a very big word, by the way. So kudos to you and your big brain and that that private education that you received is really paying off. So please let me know what the etymology is of what that phrase is. I just don't understand the term. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But we'll all find something out. We'll all learn something today. We have, of course, before we get to anything else, we have headlines around the world of sports, and there's nobody. And when I mean nobody that does it better than you, Elliot.
Wow.
I mean nobody.
Wow, that seems a little bit sarcastic, but that's okay. That's okay, and I thank you for your compliment. So I'm going to continue with it right now.
I thought that was genuine.
What was that?
I thought that was genuine.
Yeah.
Did you?
It was genuine. Just make sure you're talking to your mic today.
All right, that's what we're gonna try to sit, and I'm not gonna.
You're fine, Elliot.
Could you show us possibly what you would like to have happen over there in regards to your mic?
I'm just gonna hold it like this.
Okay.
And that's what we're gonna do, because yesterday I did it, and clearly there was a photo taken that I wish wouldn't have gotten out, but it did. So if you didn't stay up to watch it last night, the Mariners, they beat the Reds 3-1. For those that went to bed early, the Reds did load the bases in the top of the ninth. Gave me a lot of hope, and then it was squandered. Tyler Stevenson flew out to center field to end the game. Hunter Greene is obviously the biggest topic of conversation today. 98 pitches, 4 innings. He didn't give up a run, and he struck out 8. So there's some good and there's some bad there. Emilio Pagan, he got an out, but he gave up 2 hits and walked in a run. 49 combined balls were thrown on 118 pitches by Greene and Pagan. 49 balls. Not going to work out well, ever. Suter, he looked kind of good. 2 innings, striking out 3. Suter's been one of our most reliable guys in the pen. Offensively, nada. They had 4 hits. 4 singles by the Cincinnati Reds, and that was it. Poor base running error by Ellie De La Cruz prevented a second run from being scored, but other than that, it was bad. Andrew Abbott, he will take on Bryce Miller today at 4:10 to try and avoid a sweep after sweeping the White Sox. They did that a lot last year. The Reds won like 4 or 5 in a row, then they'd lose 4 or 5 in a row. I can't do that again this year. If that's what they're going to do, I'm out. Around the league, the Cubs, they lost. I was watching this game.
Did you?
I had it. I was box scoring and I was following along to it. And so I'm going to give you what happened in it. It was the final score 12-11 Diamondbacks. Reed kept I did start laughing at Reed's tweets. Reed kept saying I love the Cubs every time they took the lead back. So it was an absurd game. It started out 4-1 Arizona after 3 innings. Cubs get 4 in the top of the 5th to take a 5-4 lead. Diamondbacks answer with 4 of their own in that same inning in the bottom half. Cubs then scored 6 in the top of 7 on an Ian Happ grand slam to take the lead. Diamondbacks would score a run in the bottom half of that inning, and then the next 3 innings to win the game in extras. The Cubs fall to the Diamondbacks. That was a tough one. That was a brutal one. Any thoughts on that one, Readeroo?
It's like the 3rd time we blown a game in the 9th inning. Not a whole lot of fun. Not a whole lot of fun, but it was an exciting trip. The Cubs are good. I'm not worried. The Cubs are good. We keep playing good competition, and we keep taking series. So not worried. Kyle Hendricks might be at the end of his run.
He's not worried. Meatball. That's Meatball Boy.
He's probably...
He's Meatball Hendricks. He throws 87 right down the gut. And you got to see it to hit it, and everybody sees it.
He almost won a Cy Young. He pitched the 2 most important games in Cubs history, so he's fine.
Yeah, that's Meatball Boy. Cardinals, they win 3-2. They're the only Central team to get a win yesterday. They beat the Sacramento A's in a game that nobody cares about. The Braves, the Atlanta Braves, they beat the Astros 6-2. Ronaldo Lopez has thrown 6 innings of each of his 3 starts. He has allowed only 1 earned run and 11 total hits, striking out 18 batters. The Braves, when you're hot, and they just get everybody. So shout out to Ronaldo Lopez. Padres, they helped out the Reds, as I mentioned. They have a win over the Brewers 6-3. They take that series. The Mets, they helped out the Reds, and the Mets have a winning record. They were bad when the Reds played them. Boy, they are not bad anymore. They have beat the Pirates 3-1. The Tigers, they beat the Rangers yesterday, but they announced that they have called up Jack Leiter. He was the number 2 pick in the 2021 draft. He will start this afternoon. The Lakers. Shout out to the Lakers if you're an NBA fan. They hung out to beat the Pelicans 110-106. LeBron had 23 points, adding 9 assists and 9 boards, almost a triple-double. Anthony Davis scored 20, adding 15 rebounds. Zion Williamson on the losing side did everything he could. Unfortunately, his 40 points and 11 rebounds, they were not enough. They have been moving, or I guess they move around in the play-in tournament. I don't exactly understand what happens in this tournament, but I believe they continue on and play somebody else. They live to fight another day. The Lakers, meanwhile, they will take the Nuggets on Saturday. Shout out to them. The Warriors. The Warriors have been humiliated by the Kings, 118-94. They are eliminated officially. Keegan Murray of the Kings scored 32 points, 10 of 20 shooting, adding 9 rebounds to lead the way. De'Aaron Fox had 24 points. Domantas Sabonis, 16 points and 12 boards as well. Steph Curry, he only scored 22 points. He led the way for the Warriors. And the story of that game, Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson in 31 minutes went a spectacular 0 for 10 from the field, 0 points.
I was going to say my favorite pocket of Cincinnati sports fans are the ones that still support the Kings because they used to be the Cincinnati Royals. There's a small pocket that does it, but I love those people that are just like you randomly are on Twitter and you just see me like, go Kings, and you're like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, Cincinnati.
Kings are certainly in contention to be one of the worst franchises in sports history, right? The Sacramento Kings. I don't know what they've done a whole lot as of. I mean, they've been okay. I'm talking about as a whole, though. They have not done a whole lot.
It takes a special breed. A real special breed.
Yeah.
One of the likes of only you that could find a way to make the fact that the Sacramento Kings have been bad and tie that back to our city.
Yeah.
That takes one special kind of guy.
That's elite by me. Tonight in the NBA, the Heat will travel to Philadelphia to take on the Sixers in the 8-7 game. Sixers are 5.5-point favorites. Meanwhile, the Hawks and the Bulls, they play in the game following in the 10-9 game. The Bulls are 3.5-point favorites. Now, I mentioned that because the Hawks are having a historically bad season against the spread. 29-53 against the spread. It is the second worst record against the spread in the past 30 years. The Magic in 2003 are the only team to have a worst record against the spread during a season. They had a run from November to December where they lost 15-17 against the spread and have not covered in 6 of their final 7. That's a gambling nugget. I found it interesting. Sorry for those who don't gamble. So I will be taking the Bulls tonight. Those are your
How
headlines.
many players do you know on the Bulls?
Do you know their coach?
Yeah, Billy.
Yep.
And then they got Vucevic. They got
Is Levine still there?
Levine's still there. They got Io. I don't know how to say his last name.
DeMar DeRozan, right?
DeMar DeRozan's there.
Nice.
Caruso's no longer there. He's somewhere else. He's on the Lakers. And then anybody else I'm missing?
D-Rose, Scottie
Oh,
Pippen.
Kobe White, the guy from North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
I know a decent amount of
Carlos
Bulls.
Boozer.
There you go.
Yeah,
Dennis Rodman.
Carlos Boozer, Luol Deng,
Right.
Joakim Noah. A lot of Bulls I
Joakim
know.
Noah, big fan of Cleveland.
Loves
big,
Cleveland.
big fan of Cleveland. That's one of the all-time clips of all-time clips. The fact of the matter is when Joakim Noah was asked to apologize, and he looked directly into that reporter's face and said, "No, what am I going to apologize for? Have you ever heard anybody want to go to vacation in Cleveland?" That's a tough jab at Cleveland. You know who loves Cleveland is Tom. He'll be on here in just a moment.
Yeah.
Tom, he always defends Cleveland for whatever reason. Obviously, we'll have a discussion perhaps about that. Probably not, more or less. I'm sure the topic of conversation will be centered around Hunter Greene, and it'll go other places. But we find ourselves in a little bit of a unique situation in the sports landscape, right?
Sure.
We live in a city that doesn't have the association anywhere relatively near us that we care about. Why is that? Why is it that we don't care? Is it just because it's in another state, I guess, as to why we don't care about the Pacers? Because I feel like if we had a NBA team that was, let's say, it's about an hour and a half away, right?
It's about, yeah.
Columbus is a little bit farther than that.
You can say 2.
If you think Columbus
is probably closer than Indy, right?
I don't think it is.
I think Indy's
I think
a little
Indy's
closer.
actually closer. It's just that, my point is like, would we actually care about the NBA more if it was an Ohio team, or even better yet, maybe like a Kentucky team that's relatively close? The answer is no.
Unless they were like a storied franchise. I mean, like Columbus has an NHL team. We don't care about that. I know the NBA is a little bigger than the NHL, but no, listen. The reason we don't care about the NBA is because we don't have a team, point blank. And we have a way to feed our basketball itch with 2 college basketball teams. UK, that's right down the road. There's a pocket of Indiana fans. Like there's plenty of college basketball here to scratch that itch of basketball. That's why we don't care about the NBA, and we never will. We never will unless we get a team.
Speaking before we go to break, college basketball. Do you find the new age of college basketball more fun or interesting, I guess, than it was in the past, or would you have rather go back to the old age? Because right now, if anything, Sean had brought this up when we were working out at Prasco Park, and I thought it was like a unique take. I don't know if it's a big take, but it's a unique one at that. Is that at least the off seasons now are very much more interesting. There's rumors about what guys are leaving, what guys are coming in. It's more of free agency in the offseason for college basketball. Would you rather it be like that, where you have some interesting things to talk about in the offseason, or would you rather it be old school, you're going to have guys that stay 3 to 4 years and they stay in the program?
Yeah, I would. I mean, it's certainly more interesting. I wouldn't say it's more fun for a team like UC, who I'm not going to say is a bottom tier program, because that's not true. But in comparison to some of the Big Ten teams, we have Purdue, you have Ohio State, Michigan. There's other schools out there that kids want to go to and play. They want to go to Duke. They want to go to North Carolina. UC is not on the top of the list. So every offseason we're fighting to keep our players, and I don't like that.
One thing that Justin Kenner that I had mentioned yesterday on their show that I thought was actually unique and fun, and obviously they'll be on next on 1410 Wing AM, is this. He just mentioned he's tired of the long paragraphs after every single season by these guys saying that that nation means so much to them. They're always going to be a part of the fan base. They'll always be a part of the program. and then at the end, ultimately, they're leaving for money. And I don't think that you can blame kids for taking the bag per se.
No, certainly cannot.
But it does seem like it's starting to kind of rub off on the idea of, like, let's just be honest. The NIL was supposed to be about endorsements. It's no longer about that. It never really was about that. Now it's very much become just pay for play. And the idea that the NCAA clearly can't get their hands around it or not able to govern it makes it very evident that more and more programs and more boosters are just kind of throwing away the idea of what it actually is, and they're just saying, yeah, we're just going to pay you.
To answer your original question, do I like the new landscape of college basketball?
Yes.
Definitively, no. I like teams having guys, like I liked it when guys would stay there for 3-4 years.
Right.
Like if more teams had a guy like Zach Edey that was there for the long haul, it'd be a lot more fun. Instead, we've got a brand new roster for 80% of teams every single year. So that's not a whole lot of fun. It's hard to keep up with unless you're really into it. Unless you're completely devoted to it, it's hard to keep up with.
It is incredibly tough to keep up with, and Dayton just lost one of their better players yesterday due to the fact that, for all intents and purposes, he's going to find money elsewhere. And the other thing, too, is I don't know if it's always about the money, to be fair, as we get ready here to take our first break, and we'll have Tom Brenneman on next on 1410 Wing AM. But what my point was is that sometimes I do think it's about going to a better program to compete at a higher level and play better competition and be in better environments, right? Mm-hmm. Ivan Pace Jr., I used to kind of joke about the idea, and I know I'm jumping from sport to sport here, but I used to joke about the idea that you have lower level programs, and that's no disrespect to Miami, but you have lower level programs that take chances on some guys. They hit on those chances, and that's the real part that stinks about all of this, is that you have programs that offer kids full scholarships that no one else wanted to take. They prove themselves, they show that they belong, and then boom, they want to go somewhere else. And you can't blame the kid, because ultimately at the end of the day, competitors are competitors. They want to compete at the highest level, and I unfortunately don't think that there's an answer. The question is there an answer also for another issue around Cincinnati, or what some seem is an issue in Cincinnati, and that is Hunter Greene and his pitch count. We'll get into that and more next on 1410 Wing AM. Is Tom in here? Yeah. All right, welcome back into 1410 Wing AM. Right before the break, we obviously teased that Tom Brenneman is going to join us, and he is going to join us. And you know what? We'll get right and cut right to the chase. Hunter Greene's going to be topic A of conversation around here for at least the next few starts. That is until one of two things happens with Hunter Greene. One, he doesn't throw 100-plus pitches in 5 innings of work consistently. Or, quite frankly, we've come to realize that that's just who he's going to ultimately end up being. Now, he is 22 years old, so you have to take that into account. We'll bring on somebody that's seen a lot of baseball, a significant amount of baseball in their lifetime. Tom, welcome back to what is still honestly your show, by the way. I mean, it's still your show.
No, please. It is not my show.
It is.
You're
It
doing better
is.
at it than
No
I
Tom
ever did.
Brenneman, no off the bench. No Tom Brenneman, no off the bench. How about that? You're the founding father. Here's the deal. We've done this time and time again, and you know what? To use your phrase, Tom, it seems like it's tired to talk about the same old here with Hunter Greene. However, to put it succinctly, I don't want to spend all of our time talking about Hunter, but for those that are still frustrated, for those that are obviously are just suggesting, you know what, he can't get out of these, what you would call innings that just snowball on him, where he got 30-plus pitches in one inning, and it just really wrecks his entire outing in regards to the length. Do you think that there's an easy fix here? And if there is an easy fix, what is it?
Well, look, the easiest thing in the world, you're exactly right, Trace, is to get really frustrated and get down on the guy. I mean, he's still 24 years old, and I know that for a lot of people, that is tired. They're tired of hearing it, okay? But the bottom line is he's dealt with a lot of injuries. He's never really pitched a complete full season at any level in his career since they drafted him out of high school. So he's still very young, and he's still very inexperienced. But here's the thing. What I look at is, you got Pete Carroll used to say all the time, "Don't tell me what a guy can't do. Tell me what a guy can do." Okay. Well, we know he can throw the ball 100 miles an hour. We know he can be dominant and overpowering when he's locating his pitches. We also know, though, that there are two major challenges for him. Dependability and reliability on a second pitch. Most starting pitchers, great starting pitchers, not good, great, have a third pitch. The only two-pitch guy I can really ever remember was Randy Johnson. He threw 1,000 miles an hour, and he had a slider that nobody could hit, and he was left-handed. So he negated the left-handed bats of the opposition pretty much every game if they even played against him. But with Hunter, you've got no dependability in a second pitch. A third pitch he will not throw. He just won't do it. We've heard so much about this split and the changeup and all. He won't do it. And then the third thing is his pitch efficiency. It's walk or strike out, walk or strike out. I mean, the kid last night for Seattle was going into the seventh inning with 70-something pitches, and Hunter can't get through 4 innings without hitting 100 pitches in the game. So we've not seen improvement in either one of those two areas since he came to the big leagues. There are games he does it, and it gets you excited. But he does not have a second pitch. He really doesn't locate the fastball very well at all. Now, you can say you don't need to locate it when you throw 100. Guys are hitting the fastball, okay? And then the third thing is a pitch efficiency thing. Every time he takes the ball, by and large, you're lucky to get him into the 5th inning. And for David Bell, after you have a start like Montas had the night before, thank God they got an off day tomorrow, because that bullpen is getting run in the ground already just here in Seattle. They pitched very well over the weekend, as we know, in Chicago.
Just a side note here, Hunter, he's getting ready to be 23 years old, so he is still young. The only, yeah. And we've heard that how many times? He's young.
But that's young, Trace. You know it, and I know it. That's young. 22,
it is,
man.
And you know what? I know, and I will say this. You know what? I think two things that go against Hunter here as we move forward throughout the segment of the Brennan Men with Tom. I think he doesn't look 22 sometimes, and that's part of it, right? If he was this kind of skinny, lanky, what I would use the frame kid, right? You would almost be more apprehensive to maybe get on him as much. But he's out there. He's a very well built kid. He looks strong. He looks the part, and I think that goes against him from time to time. You add in the fact that he was the 2nd overall pick, came in with all the hype, was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He has very much the same kind of predicament that Ellie's in, right? I mean, he's been utilized in marketing by the Reds. He's been one of the, for lack of a better term, saviors that was going to come up to this franchise when they were at the lowest levels of baseball you could possibly play in the major leagues, when they were losing damn near 100 games. So when you're built up to be these types of guys, I think that there's going to be more scrutiny that comes with that, and that's not totally fair to these young players, to be quite honest. But that's part of it.
You know, the other part of it, though, Trace, that you just admitted, but I know you're well aware of it, but I think it is very much as important a factor of any of the things you just mentioned is his contract. You know, now look, that's not Greene's fault that they signed this kid to a long-term deal so they could avoid arbitration and a year or two of free agency. Hey, somebody offers you that kind of money, man, you're going to take it. And I have no problem with anybody making as much money as they possibly can. But all of those things you just said, the difference between De La Cruz at this point and Greene is that Greene has a long-term contract. I can promise you if the Reds gave Ellie De La Cruz a long-term contract tomorrow and he's hitting 230 in August, people are going to say, why in the world did we give this guy all this money?
That's fair. That's more than a fair point. Moving forward here with the Reds, and I don't know how much you've got a chance to watch them over the past week and a half. Do you find yourself in a situation from time to time, and you've seen a lot of baseball, when you travel the country and watch baseball from a national level, I don't know how well inclined or how well tuned you'd be with fan bases, but when you'd go and you talk to the personnel at these clubs, how often do you think that there's realistic expectations between club to club? Do you think that that's overall a fair assessment? Do you think that Cincinnati is going to, at the end of the year, be fair to what the expectations were and what they shouldn't be? Because I keep reminding myself, and I'll remind others, that Vegas had this team at basically a 500 club, and that was with TJ Friedel. That was with Marte. That was with Matt McClain. So
Yeah.
you take those three guys out. I'd factor in the idea that Vegas probably would see them less than 500. Do you think that's one, fair, and do you think that Major League Baseball as a whole, from a region to region standpoint, always overvalues their team?
I don't think they overvalue their team. I think the fan bases most places are smart, and they understand. I mean, at least those that follow and pay their money to go to the games and listen to on the radio or go, watch them on television, whatever it might be. You'll get surprises, both good and bad. Nobody thought the Mets were going to be as bad as they were last year, and there were huge expectations for them, rightfully so, based on the talent that they had. And the players they had on the field who ultimately didn't perform. Then you have somebody say, like this year, say Cleveland. I know we're only 3 weeks into the season, but did anybody think that the Guardians were a 12-5 team, especially now that their best pitcher's out for the year? So I think most of the time people, they look at the team, and the Reds were a surprise last year, right? Have they been overhyped this year? I think it's exciting, the players they have. There's no doubt about that, and the potential that they have. But as we've talked about many times, Trace, until the pitchers prove it, I will be very skeptical. I am more bullish on the position players, even though some of them are not playing well. I'm a lot more bullish on them than I am on some of the pitchers being able to stay consistent and stay healthy and pitch a full season. And until they do that, there are going to be people like Vegas that say the Reds are a 500 team. And I think that's the point ultimately you just made, is that they were saying that about the Reds with Marte, with McLean, with Friedel. And the reason they were still looked at as a 500 team is because the people that really look at them and say, okay, there are days I really like Greene, but I haven't seen it. There are days I really like Ashcraft, okay. Days I like Abbott, okay. And we, Montas didn't pitch at all last year. And most of those guys have been hurt every year. So I think that's a reason they're looked at as a 500 team by Vegas.
All right, final question here before I toss it over to Elliot is you always get into this season at the beginning and you're excited, and if somebody struggles, you always use the phrase, it's early. It's early. You just don't panic, it's early. The Reds sit one game above 500 right now.
Yeah.
Of course, you can get yourself into the weeds. You can start panicking. The last two nights, the offense hasn't looked that good. But I guess my question overall to you is, as you kind of you've been inside the ropes, if you will, to use that analogy from time to time. How often do clubs or front offices give a player like Jamie or Candelario, where before Nick Krall starts getting a little concerned, and I'm not suggesting he should be by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not trying to put that out there. I'm just saying, when you sign a guy to the amount of money that they signed him for, right? You took for all intents and purposes, you took a chance on him. And I know he's had a good career, and I'm not suggesting for a single second that it's been a bad decision yet. But how long do you think that goes until Nick Krall starts to scratch his head and say, if this doesn't get a lot better or somewhat better here soon, I'm going to find myself concerned?
That's a good question. Knowing Nick a little bit, and I haven't talked to him in quite a while, but he's the kind of guy that'll generally kind of stay the course. He's like, look, it's April the 17th. I mean, when you step back for a second, you think about it, because we start the season a little earlier these days. It's April the 17th. So there's a long, long way to go. But, when you look at the kind of spring that Candelario had, and I put no stock by and large in most guys. I'm only just using this as an example because that's the guy you're talking about specifically. Mm-hmm. He looked terrible in the spring. It's one thing to look bad. He looked really bad. And he's looked even worse at the plate since the season started. Now, you get into weather conditions, and obviously now he's sick, and who knows how many days he was feeling sick beforehand. I don't know. He had one decent game over the weekend. They scored 27 runs in 3 games. He did a little bit. But, I mean, look, when you're a smaller market team and you invest a lot of money in somebody, whether it's one of your own or somebody from the outside in, I would think that pretty soon you're going to start, thinking, man, this has really got to get going here. And unlike, other sports, baseball people are very reluctant to go up to a guy, call him in an office, and say, hey, man, I don't know what's going on. Is there anything we can do to help you? Is there something on your mind that we don't know about? Is there something going on we don't know about? Because if there's nothing going on, then you got to be going on. And we need you to be going on. In football, they look you right in the face and say it. Same thing in basketball. Baseball, they rarely do it. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's got a track record, back of a bubblegum card. You have to believe that it's going to get better.
Okay, fair enough. Elliot?
Tom, I noticed before I get to my very serious...
Elliot, good morning. Elliot, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Before I get to my very serious sports question, I noticed you have an Ohio State mug. Is that an Ohio State? Is that what you get for donating to the NIL fund of their $35 million roster this season? Was that a gift?
I don't donate to Ohio State. I donate to the Ohio University. But because obviously with that kind of payroll, they've got it covered without any of my help.
Sure. I have a serious question regarding the Reds, and I feel like you're the guy to ask. If you look at the Bengals, and again, I'll tie this back in a second. You look at the Bengals, people are constantly looking for somebody to blame. And oftentimes, instead of the players, you blame the coaching. So I'm going to try to do that for the Reds for a second. If you go to the Bengals offensive line, every single season, Frank Pollock's name is coming up. Should Frank Pollock be fired? Is he doing the right stuff? I'm gonna look at the Reds for a second. And Hunter Greene, this is no disrespect to him. I think he's going to be a very good pitcher one day. But he hasn't shown a lot of progression. Every single year we have this same issue. Every single year he can't go to the fifth inning. Every single year he's throwing more balls than strikes at times. Every single season. At what point do we start looking at Derek Johnson the same way we look at Frank Pollock, the same way fans blame David Bell? At what point does Derek Johnson's name get brought up for some of the pitching issues, the starting pitching issues we've had? And I know not everything's his fault. You can't ask all these guys to stay healthy. If they're not going to be healthy, you can't coach them. And for a lot of the past 2 years, we've had some serious injury issues. Yeah. But Hunter Greene, I'd say, hasn't progressed a ton over the past 3 years. Would you blame, and maybe blame isn't the right word, would you point the finger a little bit at Derek Johnson and say, hey, what's going on here?
Well, you know what, Elliot? I mean, it's a great question because you're right about Pollock. I mean, people bring up his name every single year. We do on the show, right? Yeah. All the time. And I think I find it interesting that it seems to me like most of the fans in our town are quicker to blame the coach and or the manager than they are the player. Let's be honest about it. I mean, there aren't a lot of people getting on Hunter Greene's tail right now, and there are reasons why they're not. His youth and all the things we talked about already. But we have, the players have to perform is the bottom line. And, I look at, coaching is a two-way street, meaning the coach's job is to find the right language, to find the right button to push, to find the right way. You can say something 7 different ways, but you want to try to find the way that's going to reach that particular guy. And you got to do that with 13 or 14 men on a pitching staff if you're Derek Johnson, right?
Yeah.
The other part of that, though, Elliot, is you got to have a guy who's willing to do it. I don't know anything about Hunter Greene. I don't know anything about Nick Lodolo, what kind of guys they are, how open they are to coaching. Do they have other people in their lives that are trying to tell them what they're doing wrong? I mean, there have been a million guys through the years who called their dad about their swing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and all of a sudden they start hitting the ball because their dad's been watching them since they were 5. So, I think it would be unfair to point that finger yet at Derek Johnson, and primarily because we have seen improvement in Ashcraft. We saw improvement in Abbott until he ran out of steam last year. We haven't seen Lodolo in a year. Greene was on the DL or IL three times, I think it was last year, once for an extended period of time. So, and then you got to look down the ball. I mean, Fernando Cruz, nobody wanted this guy. Does Derek Johnson get credit for him?
Yeah.
I mean, Alexis Diaz came out of nowhere. Nobody thought he'd be one of the best closers in the league. Does Derek Johnson get? So I think that pointing the finger yet at Johnson. Now you could ask the question: is Johnson getting through to Hunter Greene? That's a legitimate question. Is there something in that relationship or maybe the way he's saying it is not ringing a bell or registering. But you also have to ask, does the kid want to be coached?
Yeah.
Fair. More lighthearted stuff here. What's the shirt there, Tom? What do we got there? What's that?
This right here is a ranch out in Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
That sounds like big league.
Well, it is big league. I mean, it's a big league joint, and it's owned by the Linder family, and it's a beautiful place. And we were lucky enough years ago to go out there, my wife and me, and it's just an absolutely pristine, beautiful place. Nothing fancy about it in any form or fashion. They're two small little houses, big barn, lots of cattle, lots of horses, and it's a beautiful place.
All right. Last emphasis on a couple things. One, we got to run here shortly because of the radio. You know they have advertisements, all those fun things.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be better around here. But you know what? When we have you on the line, we'll forget the ads. They'll figure it out. So here's two quick things here. One is where your old pops is. Where is he traveling the country again, or the world? I should say.
My niece. Yeah, he is traveling. My niece is a first-year cadet at the Naval Academy, and she's also on the lacrosse team at the Naval Academy. So my dad and his wife Amanda are driving to go watch her play this afternoon in Annapolis, Maryland.
Beautiful place.
So that's a big leaguer. When you go to Annapolis, I mean Rancho Penoso is nothing compared to Annapolis and the Naval Academy. That's the big leagues. Try to talk my son into going there. In one ear, out the other.
Fair enough. Last thing, we're getting ready to ink a deal on a Chatterbox Golf Open. One, we need to find a name that's better than that. Two is we're gonna have to pull out the Rolodex, Tom, and start to tease this thing. We're gonna have to get some big names in there.
Okay.
Off the top of your head, not to put you on the spot, but off the top of your head, if I said to you, what's the biggest name you think we could get to come and play some golf and have a grand old time in Cincinnati, Ohio, at one of the a country club maybe or somewhere relatively nice?
Yeah.
What's your who would people be surprised by Tom giving a phone call to come play some golf?
Well, I mean, I think, one of the first, just because I've known him for so long, and I mean, there's no bigger name in this town than Anthony Munoz, right?
That's right.
It's a big name.
I mean, that's a huge name. It's a Hall of Famer. Last time I checked, there are not a lot of Hall of Famers running around Cincinnati. There are a lot of guys you guys say are going to the Hall of Fame in their second year. But, there's only one Hall of Famer, as far as I know, running around. Oscar Robertson runs around, too. So, but how about Munoz? We start there.
All right.
A lot of
fair
it
enough.
will depend on when we do it. Do we know what month we're doing it?
We're going to do it in the fall. We're going to ink all that relatively soon, but we finally are going to do it. It's finally a real thing. So we're getting close to doing it. Couple things. Dialed in with Tom Brenneman. You will be back in the saddle when?
Friday at high noon, right after you guys are finished up on Off the Bench at 12 o'clock.
That's right. And Off the Bench is presented by, Tom?
United Dairy Farmers.
That is right. And thank you, Tom, for coming on Off the Bench.
My pleasure.
Again,
I'm not as much fun as my old man, but we got to get him back next week.
We'll figure it all out. Sometimes I'll also be, Tom. I'm gonna put my hand up here and say that I didn't come with the best hard hitting questions. I was up till 4 a.m. Last night watching Hunter Greene throw 400 pitches and the Reds lose 3-1. So my spirits aren't all that high.
Trace, you are the ultimate grinder, ultimate nut cutter. End of story.
I'll take it. I'll take that as a. I'll take that. Honestly, it's one of the highest.
You'll take it what? You think when I call somebody a gamer and a nut cutter, that's not a compliment?
I'm trying to think that's maybe the top 5 compliment of my life, Tom. I've been told my whole life I can't hit,
coming
can't field.
from me may not mean anything, but
that's not true, Tom.
With little value that really my name carries or weight carries, if I say you're a gamer and a nut cutter, coming from me, as low as that may be, that is the ultimate compliment.
You're the man. I appreciate that. All right, Tom. Godspeed. We'll see you later this week. Thank you.
All right, boys. Adios.
All right, that was Tom Brenneman. He dialed in this Friday. Check it out. Chatterbox Sports YouTube. That's the internet for those that are on the radio. 1410 AM. We'll be right back after this, and we're going to talk a little more about maybe Hunter Greene and does the MLB have a epidemic on their hands? We'll be right back. All right, welcome back into 1410 Wing AM. Just heard from Tom Brenneman with the Brenneman. His old man, Marty, he's on the road, heading to Annapolis. I've heard it's a beautiful place, and I know I'm going to sound like an idiot right now, but that is West Point, right? That's the more commonly known phrase of Annapolis. Yes, or am I wrong on that?
Sorry, I was locked into the chat.
Annapolis
Yes.
is that West Point, or is that two different things? That's
West Point is in New York. That is where Army is.
Army in
Annapolis is in Maryland. That's where the Navy is.
Yeah, Army-Navy game. So Annapolis, that's where I get confused because ultimately at the end of the day, so when Navy plays, they obviously play Annapolis, but when Army plays, they play at Gillette, or do they just play at Gillette Stadium every year? Army-Navy.
Army is nowhere near New York City. West Point's in northern New York, so it's not like near New York City. It's in like closer to like Albany and stuff like that. So I don't know where they play.
Well, I'm saying they play that game at Gillette Stadium. I wonder if they do that every year. We'll find out. I guess we probably know that, but we can figure that out before the show ends. I'm sure the chat will happily let us know. All right, Hunter Greene, let's do this. Let's do this.
Before we do this Hunter Greene thing, I did research. You tasked me
Yes.
with finding the etymology of the word.
Yes, please do
Is
that.
your oyster. That comes from old Billy Shakespeare.
Okay.
William Shakespeare, in his play, The Merry Wives of Windsor, says, "Why then, the world's mine oyster, which I will, with sword, open." Which means, like, hey, back then, pearls were valuable, and they come from oysters.
Okay.
So they're saying, like, hey, the world's your oyster. Go make money out in the world. Go find value out in the world. Go find your pearls. So that's what it means.
Oh.
There you go. Thanks, Billy Shakes.
Thanks, Billy.
I was hoping it would be more fun.
Yeah, that was kind of lame.
I don't have a problem with it. It makes perfect sense, but yeah, I was hoping it would be a little more fun. Sometimes when you hear phrases and how they came to be, the origin story, it's really cool and neat. That one didn't do it for me.
Bucket
You know who
list?
else didn't do it for me last night?
Who?
Hunter Greene.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Listen, we do this so much with Hunter Greene, and I want to be fair to him. And I do. Listen, I just said it. He's 22 years old, 247 days. That's the exact number.
Thank you.
For those that are wondering about his age.
Who?
Hunter Greene.
Isn't he 24?
He's 22 years old, 247 days. I don't know how many hours because Baseball Reference doesn't tell me. But I would love to share that if those that are really concerned about his age would like it to know. I'll get to that. Maybe I'll do some research. I'll come back tomorrow and let you know how many days or how many years, how many days, and how many hours. But the problem with Hunter is this: is that at some point, there's got to be. And to be fair, I could go a million ways with this, but I'm going to lay out all the cards in this whole Hunter Greene situation, okay? The vast majority of this fan base, and the vast majority of every fan base, and I don't want to use the word casual because I think it's a derogatory term that some people decide to use for fans. But the vast majority of fans aren't probably going to be invested into all of the analytical things that probably show you as to why you can believe in Hunter Greene and why Hunter Greene is a certain age and why over time Hunter Greene's going to be a really good serviceable pitcher. But the vast majority of the fan base turns the TV on, they watch the game, and for the last few years it's been almost the same song and dance with Hunter Greene, which is you throw 80, 90, 100 pitches and you look up and it's the top of the third. Top of the fourth. And now you find yourself in a position where it's starting to feel like it's a trend more so than an outlier. And how you solve this is the part that honestly I think it's very fair to say in life, you just don't know. I don't think that anyone really knows 100% how to solve the problem. The easy answer is going to be, you develop a third pitch. You develop another pitch that can get guys out. You develop another pitch that can kind of change up the speed, the tempo. Instead of him being a quote-unquote thrower, he becomes a pitcher. That's so much easier said than done. I don't know how in the world you can continue to try to find ways in which you can blame him for that's the reason as to why he's not successful. He is 22.
He's not.
He's not
20.
He's not 22.
He turns 25 this August.
Hunter Greene was born August 9th, 1999.
Okay.
That's why.
Trace.
So I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut it.
That's why.
Here's what happened.
Here's
Here's what happened. Here's what happened. Can
Yeah.
I say what happened?
It was probably Kirby rotting your brain. Every player is younger than the next. Every player
They're all
is
22. They're all 22.
Every player is a little baby boy, and they all just need to be treated as such. He's a 20. Listen, he's 24. He's 25. He's in the major leagues. He signed a contract extension.
That was when his first debut was. He was 22 years old, 247 days. Okay, to be clear, when he made his debut. That's a mistake on my end. You know what? Here's what I got for you. You know what? I'm just gonna take the high road and say I made a mistake. But I do want to say I would like to say it is. I don't love the idea that they show you his age right one line below on Baseball Reference.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, it does say debut right next to it.
So
hand up.
talking about? It says,
It's my fault. It's my fault. Now, if he was 22 years old, boy, could you imagine how good he could be? I mean,
Does it change how you feel at all?
some are saying he could be maybe the next Nolan Ryan.
I understand the sentiment. I really do. I understand the sentiment that Ellie is younger than every player that's ever played baseball. I understand that Hunter Greene in 400 years could be the world's greatest pitcher. I hate that argument. I hate that excuse. I hate it. And it might be true. You're right. All these guys are somewhat young. The Reds are a young roster. They have a young roster, a young core. But these are Major League Baseball players. These are professional athletes. At some point, you got to stop saying they're so young that they can't do their job. At some point. I'm not asking for a lot here. I'm just saying hold yourself a little bit. And I have a Hunter Greene clip, and he holds himself accountable. This is not a 22-year-old. This is a grown man, and he knows what he's doing. I think Hunter Greene is great. I just think he struggles with pitch count and sometimes pitch efficiency. That's what I'm saying. I just can't take and Reed's turned it into a bit on Twitter. Every single Reds player that does anything, he just says, look how he overcame all the adversity of being young. And it's a good bit because that's what everybody says now in Reds country. This is a copyright. This is a copyright.
No, it isn't.
You're
It's
good.
behind. It's behind. We're good.
No,
Go ahead. Keep it going.
So if
We're
you
gonna
don't know what's
strike.
happening, if you can't hear it on the microphone, Trace interrupted my monologue with Taylor Swift's 22. And that was
I
reminiscing
think
of
that
his
if we
mistake.
have this on the radio, I'm going to have to send a personal message today. I feel like on the radio, if they
Yeah.
have the rights to play this song, it should be underbedded on this entire segment right now of you speaking about how you're tired of hearing about how he's 24 years old.
Sure. The point is, and what I was saying, is that at some point, you do your job, you do it well. Sure, you get a little bit of leeway because of your inexperience, but you don't use it as a crutch every time something goes wrong. Hunter Greene has been throwing 98 pitches in 4 innings for a hell of a lot longer than just this game. Yeah. He's been doing it for 3 years. And that's what I'm concerned about. It has nothing to do with his age. It doesn't. The only thing you might want to be concerned with his age is that if you throw 100 miles per hour every pitch, your career tends to be a little bit shorter than others because your elbow and your arm is going to go down at some point. That's what I'm concerned with. He's throwing way too many pitches and not enough innings. He came out of a couple big jams yesterday. If there was a, and I'm sure Nick Kirby or Reds Daily or one of those goons has a stat to back this up of clutch pitching with the bases loaded, out efficiency. I'm sure there's an analytic for it, and he was great at that yesterday. When we needed him to make a big pitch, he made it. But the pitches that didn't have any urgency, it seems like everybody is catching up to it. They had like 30 foul balls off Hunter Greene yesterday. 30. If you want to correct me on that over-exaggeration, it's somewhere in the mid-20s. But it can't happen. People are figuring him out. There are moments where he shines. He goes 7 innings. He gives up 1 hit and he strikes out 12. There are those moments. But we don't mention the age then. I don't say he's 22 2 years old then. He's a 24-year-old major league pitcher who signed a contract extension. This is a professional athlete. So we can use whatever crutch you want. I hope that you refrain from using the age stuff all season long because, honest to God, I'm tired of it.
I think at some point it does get a little tired, the age thing. You mentioned he's been in the year for 3 years, or in the league for 3 years. He's also been hurt. So that development has been kind of stunted as well. And like you said, you can't you keep throwing that 100 miles an hour and you can't get through innings. You're going to wear out your elbow and your arm, and he gets hurt. And I think it's like almost a never-ending cycle of him not developing, getting hurt, and then we go through the same song and dance now for 3 years. At some point, that excuse gets tired. I agree with you 100%. I just don't know if the excuse is tired yet because of the injuries. If we go through this whole season and there's no progress at all, I think that's when you hit the panic button. I think that's when you start to really.
I'm not hitting the panic button. Nobody's hitting the panic button. I'm just tired of an issue that's been reoccurring for 3 seasons now, and there hasn't been a ton of adjustment on it. And we still are looking back at like, oh, he's young. Oh, he's young. At what point during this contract do we say, okay, he's not young anymore? He's 24 years old and he's a professional athlete. And yes, he does have the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Does he though?
He does.
I just disagree with that.
He has higher expectations than the rest of the starting rotation. 100% he does.
You think so?
100. When you were the cover of Sports Illustrated and that photo was going around last night, when they're calling you the LeBron of baseball, it's going to be hard to live up to it. And there are certainly fans that take that Sports Illustrated cover and they take it as gospel. And they say, this is right. We have the LeBron of baseball coming up. And then they see what happened last night and he goes 4 innings and 98 pitches. And they say, well, why is this guy not the LeBron of baseball? So, yeah, I do think people are putting unnecessary pressure on Hunter Greene. I just can't do with the age stuff. Hunter Greene did have some. I'd like to play the clip if that's okay with everybody here.
I got the clip.
Hunter Greene spoke after the game on essentially what went wrong, and I thought he's one of the more adult guys we have. He is. He's so young, but guess what? He acts like an adult because he's a professional athlete. He's a mature kid. So Casey, roll the clip. This was Hunter Greene explaining himself after last night.
We talked about this before, but a lot of 3-ball counts. Again, did you win? Just obviously couldn't go as far in the game as you'd like.
Yeah, just way too many pitches. My slider obviously wasn't great today. Usually that's a pitch where I can get back in a count, put guys away. I got some swing and miss, but not enough to obviously be effective. But got to be better for the bullpen. Those guys are grinding. They're coming in big moments like Willie and getting it done, and so just got to be better.
Is there anything at all in there to build on?
Obviously a lot of strikeouts, and but I'd rather be going deeper into games, and taking that less strikeouts for deeper in the game. So just got to keep working. I actually started feeling better in that last inning. My body started to feel looser, which is crazy because I was approaching 100 pitches, but. I wanted to go back out there, but obviously I'd reached a high pitch count. So I just got to keep going, and that's all I could do.
How do you refine the slider? I mean, this is a tough game. It's a tough thing to do, but other than continuing to be stubborn and throwing it during games, how can you refine it better?
I think my answer is really just being able to lock it in the bullpen, and that can be funny too because you can have a bad bullpen and go out and absolutely shove. So, but I think that's a big key for me is being able to get the shape locked in pretty early on, whether it's catch play or in the bullpen, and then be able to replicate that as I go out and I pitch in the actual game. The pitch isn't always going to be the same, but I need to be able to find more consistency in that pitch because. Trying to pitch with one pitch. I'm not pitching with one pitch. I was still able to throw some curveballs and some good splitters in there, but that slider just needs to be on 100% of the time, or if at least not, it needs to be 90% or so. So.
Mariner hitters been what you expected coming in, or have they done anything different from what you guys saw in the scouting reports?
No. Obviously it's a big league club. I know they're going through a rough patch, but They're still great hitters over there, and yeah, no, not really, I guess.
All right, that was Hunter Greene. And he does have a very mature mindset about him. I think that everything he said is very, very true, and I also think he has a very good he has good, basically, self-evaluation on where he's at. I don't love the answer, though, for being quite honest, in regards to kind of what he needs to kind of change or anything like that. I don't know if it's a fair answer by Jim Day. Jim Day was kind of trying to soften the blow of basically asking him what does he have to do to actually, be able to control pitches, which is kind of being a pitcher. It's part of the job. It's just command. Simple as that. And you can say whatever you want, but that just comes through reps, in my opinion. Now, maybe there's this concept that you don't want to get for a guy that's been hurt previously. Health is the main priority. Let's all be very clear right now. The number one thing that we wanted Hunter Greene to be this year was healthy. He's been healthy. So knock on wood with that. But without reps, without the ability to have a feel for the pitch, you're not going to get better. I don't love the answer of him saying, I got to figure out what the shape of the pitch is going to be on certain days. I don't know. Most guys that have elite level stuff, the shape doesn't change. The shape doesn't change. They have a pitch, and they're able to control it, and they're able to have sequences within at-bats that they know will get certain hitters out. If they throw one pitch here, and they throw the next pitch there, and they change the off-speed here, that's what a pitcher does. Speaking of pitching, how far have we gotten away from that in Major League Baseball? Now it's all about velo. We'll talk about that next on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we are going to go to some ad reads here, ladies and gentlemen, on YouTube. By the way, you guys have been fantastic. One thing, I've 100% lost it now. The chat is absolutely just is moving and grooving here. But Raptor had mentioned something along the lines that made me laugh out loud with Hunter Greene. I don't know. Did you guys pick that up? Did you see what he said?
I didn't see it.
Oh, man. If Raptor's still in here, he's going to have to copy and paste it and make it go back towards the bottom, because me going back and finding that at this point is going to be is just probably not going to happen.
Let me read the super chats.
But please do.
Max Vickers, $4.99. Reds need 12 hard hit balls to win today.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Hit as hard as you can. Put in the clouds.
I'm not gonna make fun of those stats anymore.
Can we? No,
because
listen.
it doesn't do anybody any good. But at some point, am I allowed to say something?
You can say whatever, but we're gonna have a reasonable conversation about this. But go ahead.
When you say you hit the ball real hard,
yeah,
and it accumulates up into an out, am I supposed to be excited?
Well, I'll say this.
It's about the process.
It's about simply put, exit velocity is a good stat if it's mirrored with launch angle, in my opinion, because I think launch angle is a very, very important thing when it comes to the exit velo as well. The only thing that you really can do when you go to the plate is hit the ball hard. Like, no one in the world, I don't care how good of a hitter you are,
can't place it.
You're not going to specifically place the ball
right
8 times out of 10. Like, maybe you could convince me that Tony Gwynn back in the day was an unbelievable hitter, and one of 1,000 guys that ever played Major League Baseball can actually decide, you know what, I'm going to try to place the ball and hit the ball through this hole. There's not that many guys that can do that in the world. Maybe, like I said, and I venture to say maybe 20 in the history of baseball could consistently decide where they want to hit the ball. So throw that out the window. After that, it's just about hitting the ball hard. Because if you hit the ball hard, more times than not, it's going to find a way to get it on base. Right. The thing that pisses me off, though, and this is why I got upset yesterday, is that I don't care if you hit the ball 100 miles an hour if the launch angle is whatever degree and it's just a fly out. It doesn't mean anything to me. All these guys are big and strong. Yes. And I understand barreling balls up is somewhat important. But at the same time, like, you can't convince me that going with an 0-2 curveball in the outside corner and basically flicking your wrist and kind of sending a soft line drive out to left field isn't a better swing than CES, and I love CES, than CES hitting a ball 700 feet in the air, and yeah, he hit it 100 miles an hour. It's not the same at bat. One at bat is considerably better than the other. So overall, is exit velocity a horrible stat? Of course it's not. But I don't want to just use every single game. Like, if you don't watch the game, right? It's hard to sit here and be like, wow, the Mariners only had 2 hard hit balls. The Reds had 8. They outplayed them. No, they didn't. The Mariners had good at bats. They found ways to extend at bats. They fouled off 6, 7, 8 pitches. And yeah, the 8th pitch of the at-bat, a guy flicks one into left field and it's a base hit. That's just so much of a better at-bat than a guy that walks up there and hits a, I'm not trying to take away a 385-foot fly ball, but that's so much of a better at-bat.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
When stats like batting average and stuff like that show you what happened, exit velocity shows you what's supposed to happen. Like it shows you it's a way to predict future success is all it is. It's just a way. It's the best thing we've got to predict. Hey, this guy hits the ball pretty consistently, pretty hard. You can go ahead and assume that he's going to be a pretty good hitter, even if it's not directly showing results at the current moment.
That's fair, but I just don't like how we only emphasize it when we lose, and that seems to be the case.
That's more than fair. And can we also say this? A lot of these statistics, the analytics, the sabermetrics are very good for macro stats. Like, I really do think that. If you give me the exit velos of a guy over 5 years and another guy's exit velos over 5 years, clearly I'm going to agree that whoever has the most exit velos or the highest exit velos over the course of 5 years is a better hitter. I 100% believe in that. But we take the same stats and then we mold them down into one baseball game and we act like that should mean something. And I guess my point is I don't think that's the case. That's all.
I think it's fair. An analogy that just came up, maybe it's fair, maybe it's way off the base, is where win-loss is batting average, right? That's what happens. Run differential is exit velocity, to where, like, hey, if you have a high run differential, you're probably a pretty good team. If you hit the ball hard, you're probably a pretty good hitter. But there is some outlying scenarios, like the Marlins last year that won 50 games by 1 run and had a terrible run differential. It's just a way to predict future success.
And finally, real quick, Mr. Mo, 499. Hunter Greene was born August 9th, 1999. That in no way adds up to 22.
Yeah, I mean, it's on me.
Can we hold Hunter Greene a birthday party on August 9th for his 22nd birthday?
It's April 10th was the birthday that I had. Age 22, 247 days. So it just turns out that was his debut. For those that are wondering, sometimes this is just fun. I actually love Hunter Greene. I really do. I think,
Nobody hates Hunter
no,
Greene.
I don't think no one hates Hunter Greene. I think he does get a little bit of unfair criticism from time to time from our fan base.
There's also the camp out there, and I hate to keep picking on them.
Sure.
But there's also the camp where you can't criticize anybody.
Well, that's because
it's so tired. It's so tiring to deal with that, and it's whatever. If I can't criticize anymore, I'll stop criticizing.
It's part of our jobs to criticize
From
athletes.
an outside perspective, I find it funny where different sides, who people are allowed to criticize, who's off limits.
I agree with that 100%.
Like
I 100% agree with what you're about to say.
From a Cubs fan who watches this stuff from the periphery, Ellie De La Rue over here will bash Ellie De La Cruz all the time. But someone says something bad about Jonathan India or Spencer Steer, heaven forbid them. Heaven forbid them.
I don't think
But then you can't talk bad, or you constantly talk bad about Hunter Greene and all these things.
I think the Jonathan India thing's a little bit of a shtick, but I get your point.
Jonathan India's hitting like 170 right
Correct.
now. You've
And
not
I-
brought his name up once.
Yeah,
Ellie
I did.
De La
I had a
Cruz
whole
is-
segment on
Okay,
it
maybe you
yesterday.
did. I'm not sure. You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Well,
I wrote like
you
four-
also, to be honest,
I
you
had
also
a paragraph about it.
Yeah, but you didn't really criticize him a whole lot. You basically said that he should still stay in the
You
leadoff
said-
position.
yeah, you want him batting leadoff.
You said you still want him batting leadoff. So I'm just saying, if that was like Stuart Fairchild and he was hitting 170, you'd be over here ranting and raving about how he needs to be out
one
there.
starts and one doesn't.
And it's fair. Listen, I'm not trying to turn this into a big thing.
Why do we criticize Stuart Fairchild more? Because nobody knows his name. That's why. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's what it is. Again, Stuart Fairchild's been great.
Ellie De La Cruz, I would argue, has been just as valuable, if not more valuable, as a player as Spencer Steer this year. I know that's crazy
This isn't on the
to think about,
Yeah.
but he has been. And Ellie De La Cruz has gotten just significant more hate and hatred and all this stuff. And Spencer Steer, who's been fantastic. I think both players have played very, very well through this first month.
I think Spear Cat brings up an excellent point. I know that we're not on the radio, and that's good because I think sometimes it's fun to have good banter here and have genuine conversations that maybe we can say whatever we want at any time. Spear Cat basically says that it's very similar to where we live in our society and how people react to almost anything, like politics.
Correct.
What we're talking about with Hunter Greene, what we're talking about with Ellie, what we're talking about with David Bell, all these times we talk about there's always two sides of the aisle, and it seems like. I do think that there's actually a decent majority of people that are in the middle, but the people that you hear the most from, of course, are going to be one side and the complete other side. And then you're going to more times than not, someone's going to pick sides of one side, and then it's going to turn into this big debate that probably neither side's telling the full truth. Speaking of which, last night, I don't want to do this on the radio because I think it's probably relatively, we're going to go too long, and we'll get to ad reads in just 1 second, I promise. But I do have a question about the play, and it just completely pissed me off because it feels like sometimes, and this is where like people think I'm like picking on Ellie. I'm not picking on Ellie at all. It just feels like sometimes that Ellie can't ever do anything like wrong to per se. Like what I'm going to say, people are going to think that I'm hating on Ellie, but when you're the lead cutoff man on a tandem relay, Reed.
I didn't see the play, but go on.
I know you didn't.
No,
that's actually better that you didn't see the play.
I'm listening.
I'm just asking a baseball question. And I didn't say this last night because I know people are going to kill me for it. And I was just like, I'm going to shut the hell up because I can't win here. But I'm going to say something. If you're the lead cutoff man on a tandem relay, right, and the ball's damn near at the wall, what is the main job of the first guy in line on the tandem relay?
Is if the ball's way offline, you get it and you get it in quicker, right? Or is it?
Well, all right. So here's maybe you didn't play field, but I'll say what I think. I know you didn't play middle infield. All right, so let's do the middle infield talk here for a second. If you're the lead guy on a tandem relay, your job is to make sure that you get there in a time where the ball doesn't hit the ground. Like it can't hit the ground.
Okay.
Why? Because if it's going to be a short hop to you, theoretically the guy behind you who's the tandem relay, which is either the second baseman or the shortstop based off where it's at, is going to catch the ball instead of on a short hop. They're going to catch the ball on a big hop and then make the throw in home.
Okay.
Am I overly upset about this play? No. But I will say this. The incredibly small things could be the difference between making a play or not making a play.
What do you do?
Stuart Fairchild cut a ball off last night, and nobody brought it up. Nobody said a word about it on the broadcast. Not even a single word out of Sadek's mouth was like, wow, Stuart Fairchild covered some ground there, cut that ball off full speed, spun, and made a pretty damn good throw into the infield.
Casey, I'm sending it to you right now.
Ellie caught the ball on a short hop, which, again, I'm not even really killing Ellie for this, okay? But more times than not.
He caught it on a short hop, which you can't do.
Well, you would like to catch it in the air.
Right.
You want to make sure you're far enough out there that you know you're going to catch the ball in the air. And lastly, if it's behind you a little bit, you'd rather be moving backwards to catch the ball because your momentum's going to allow you to throw it home. You don't want to be going this way. But you know what Ellie De La Cruz has? He has God-given abilities that no one else in the world, most people in the world don't have, which is an unbelievable arm.
I've got it right here.
So to finally this out, people are also then acting like Maley should have caught this ball. This is by the way, I hate that they cut away from this. That is such, I hate that. That's a great throw. So he's not out there far enough. He makes a throw. The ball tails up the line. It's a tough play. It's a tough play. You're never supposed to make this play. But everybody's pissed off at Luke Maley. You're a catcher.
Yeah.
Look at this ball tailing up the line, and he has to swipe tag. Do you think in real time watching this, Maley should have caught this and tagged him out?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I think Maley's got to move his feet probably a step up the line. Like there's no reason.
I agree.
He's got to move his feet up the line to catch it. Just like Ellie De La Cruz clearly shouldn't catch it off the short hop. You're right about that. That's unacceptable. You either got to catch it in the air or catch it on the long hop. He did take a step back, but then he decided to catch it on a short hop. That was weird. But Maley should catch it. He should catch it. He's got to move his feet.
That's what happened. But I'm telling you what happened as well. And I'm not going to kill Ellie.
Listen,
but
that's
Ellie
a
also's ball is tailing up the line.
That's a pretty good throw from Ellie De La Cruz, Trace.
I'm not saying it's not.
Because that's a 140-foot throw, and though it's tailing.
It is tailing away. And I think that you're right. Luke Maley could have moved his feet up the line. But I would say this. There's do or die plays in baseball is what I'm getting at, and you ultimately just have to go for it, right? Slow rollers, you're gonna just you're throwing your glove at it, praying to God you get it, and then you make a quick transfer, you throw the ball. I'm trying to defend Luke Maley last night. I don't think that many catchers make that play because of this. He has to swipe tag literally almost immediately as the ball is getting there. The ball's tailing up the line, and also if you watch the play, he barely tagged him, and like. I just don't think it's a realistic play. People were crushing Maley last night, acting like he's 100% got to make that play. I don't believe
it. Out of the three players there, the person who was the worst, who made the biggest mistake, was Luke Maley.
That's fair, because he didn't move his feet more than anything.
Because he didn't move his feet. Yep, he didn't go blind. Someone said he has his mask still on. I didn't even see if he still had his mask on. Maybe he likes to keep his mask on in case of a collision. That seems pretty silly. But yeah, he did the worst. I think that Ellie De La Cruz's bigger error was catching it off the short hop.
Right. No, it's an impossible play.
Listen, I think Luke Maley, I think everything worked to where you should have gotten out there. And shout out to that umpire who was standing right in front of the play, saw the ball pop out, and still called the guy out.
Correct. Yeah, that is a very good missing point that you just made right there.
Right,
I mean, the umpire, I don't know how these guys do it, man. But yeah, he calls the guy out. Could you imagine? They did fix it on the field before they went to replay. But I was thinking if they didn't have replay and somehow that call on the field stuck is like.
Well, like sometimes they'll they punch him out, and then they see the ball, they go, oh, okay, he's safe then. But
it took him a minute. He looked at the third base umpire. The third base umpire said, yeah, the ball popped out, and he signaled safe. That's what happened. But I don't know. I would like for you to see the back angle of that play to see how low, like the ball was getting ready to short hop. It was a tough play all around. Nothing worth getting all that upset.
I think Luke Maley did the worst there. I think he. If there's anyone that deserves criticism the most, it's Luke Maley for not catching that ball.
I just don't think it's a realistic play for Luke Maley to make. I think he's got to catch the ball, one. Ball's tailing up the line. Rightfully so, because you throw it, like I said, 94 miles an hour is what Sadak said, like 5 different times. And it was 2-seam fastball, essentially. So he didn't get the 4 seams on it, which is fine. Not killing Ellie. He's making a play. And then you got to not only catch the ball that's damn near on the ground, you got to swipe tag. You got to catch it, swipe tag him, and hold on to the ball. Yeah. Don't think it's realistic.
Let's do some ad reads, and then we'll get back to it.
Ad reads.
Ad reads. Encore Technologies, the report, Encore Technologies report. Sports report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. They provide IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
PRODUCTIVITY productivity.
That's right, productivity.
I think so.
Every time he does it, I can't follow along to see if he's spelling it right, so... Oh, well. But path innovation begins here. Visit encore.tech. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here.
Oh.
You hear that?
Swish it.
It's Pawnee water. Made here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water and the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI-water.com so you can buy this great tasting water.
Shout out Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah, shout out Kendrick Perkins.
So now we're going to do 10 seconds or 5 seconds of silence and get back to the radio.
Before we do that, I just also want to mention, please give our show a like.
We got 10 likes on there right now.
Yeah, we need a lot more likes than what we got right now. Also, check out our memberships. We've been getting a lot more members since the Red season started. We get some exclusive content. Previews for the Reds games. We are starting to do Quiplash more often now. Kirby is kind of helping us out a little bit when we're really busy, but we're also getting back to doing boxed lunches because we are starting to get a little more time. We're not super busy. But yeah, check that out as well. Let's go back to the radio.
5 seconds.
All right, welcome back into 1410. Wing AM, Dayton's home. The Miami Valley, some call it. The Miami Valley. Best sports talk in the Miami Valley, ESPN Radio. 1410 Wing AM. We are off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We just mentioned Hunter Greene. Obviously, what does Hunter Greene do? He throws the ball really hard. I have a clip, Casey, that I had obviously sent you. This is Glass now. He is speaking to Chris Rose. Chris Rose obviously is a part of John Boy Media. Shout out to them. But what he is suggesting is something I want to have a discussion about. Here's Glass now talking about velocities with pitchers.
Your comment from a couple of years ago about the sticky stuff made its rounds again.
My only beef with why I said all that was because the rule was changed in the middle of the season. And then the whole argument now is the pitch clock, and I think it's a multitude of reasons. The mentality I've had since I was in high school was throw the ball as hard as you can all the time. That's the highest chance of you playing college, the highest chance of you playing pro. If you get hurt, we got good doctors. That's been the mentality for such a long time.
So you wouldn't have changed one route of your path?
But no, I wouldn't change it at all. You want to know because the times when I didn't go after velocity, I didn't go after all that stuff, I had a 7.7 ERA. I've never been Greg Maddux. I've never been able to, like, in my life, I've never been able to, like, I've always struggled with command until, like, relatively recently, my last few years. I think the decision of throwing hard and getting hurt is going to win every single time. And the only negative side is lose time, you can't contribute to your team, and then you're out for, like, a year. Like, I think that's everyone is going to take throw hard, get hurt, make money type of, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, logically, that's just the choice everyone's going to make.
There you have it. That's the facts. That is the absolute fact of what you have. And that's the situation that exists right now in Major League Baseball. And I would also say there's not many pitchers. Greg Maddux, I really do believe this. I don't know if Greg Maddux ever even gets a chance to pitch in the big leagues. Now, you might think I'm crazy for saying that, but I just don't know if there's that many guys anymore that are going to throw 90, 91, 92 miles an hour that are going to have enough time to develop when they're younger to be given a chance to pitch on bigger stages. And if it is, it's going to be a diamond in the rough situation. It's going to be the David Eckstein stories where, you know, this guy's just been undersized, but he just kept hitting. Maybe it's a Hurtubise situation. There's always an outlier to every rule. But I just think that at this point, let's stop blaming the pitch clock, okay? That's first and foremost. I think that's the easiest target that there is. That's the one thing that's the lowest hanging fruit, as some would say. But the truth of the matter is this has been a systemic thing that's happened in baseball, and it starts in the youth levels. And the truth is that once you get to maybe your freshman year of high school, velocity is the main ingredient of what the vast majority of scouts and, more importantly, travel programs that lead to what college coaches are looking for. How hard does this guy throw? And the truth of the matter is there's been science and there has been programs, Driveline being the biggest one, but there's even been more. There's been arm band workouts. There is a different method of madness to how to go about being a pitcher when you're younger now than ever before. And it all centers around velocity. You just heard a guy that Major League Baseball that suggested that he's never, not a single time, been able to command pitches. And that is the number one ingredient that most people would say would make you a successful player, or pitcher, I should say, is how well can you command pitches. The reality is, though, is that humans only have such good reaction times. If the home plate in the pitching rubber is not going to move back, and you're able to continue to extend the human body to be able to, again, in a short amount of time, in a very short interim, get to where you can throw incredibly hard, then it's going to overpower and have more success than, again, a traditional, typical Greg Maddux style pitcher. Because there's less margin for error for a guy that has to hit corners. There's less margin for an error for a guy that has to rely on pitchability. You got a guy like Glass now, guess what? Most kids in high school aren't going to hit 95 plus miles an hour. If you have the God-given ability plus training to do that, then so be it. The difference between guys that threw 98, 99, and 100 20, 25 years ago, which there weren't that many, is that they had a natural God-given ability to be able to do that. Now it comes from training more times than not. Now it comes from what armband workouts you're doing, what weighted ball program you have, what type of drive line program you exist in. And you know what we're finding out on the back end? We're finding out that ultimately there's not a long shelf life for your arm if you go about it in that way. And that's, I don't want to say that's a problem, but let's just call it what it is. That's part of it. You heard Glass now say he wouldn't change a thing because it got him to where it's at, and that's more than fine. But I don't want to hear people come crying back to me saying, oh my gosh, look at the pitch clock. What are all these problems in Major League Baseball? It's pretty clear and evident that your ligaments, your muscles, your tendons, they can only handle so much. And at some point, it's going to break. If you drive, again, not to use a crazy analogy here, but if you drive your car, right, as literally as fast as you can every single second of the day, you're probably going to have more car problems than the person that babies their car around.
That's a good one. That's a good point.
And that's where we're at. And you know what? If you only need your car for a short amount of time in your life, by all means, go ahead, rip it. But you can't complain about it on the back end. And Glass, now to his credit, is not complaining. He just laid it out as an absolute fact.
Listen, you're absolutely right. them throwing 100 miles an hour, every team now has 4 or 5 guys that can throw near 100 miles an hour. And that's not the problem. How hard you throw is not the problem. It's the percentage of effort that you're giving every single pitch. Guys used to 20 years ago, they would ask you to start, and they would go, hey, I'm going to go out on the mound. I'm going to, if there's a runner on base, I'll probably gas him up, right? I'll give it my all then. Or we get the first 2 guys out. Let's take some stuff off for this third batter. Because we already got 2 in the well, I don't need to give my best stuff to get out of this inning. Now, and there's reason behind it, right? The math, they say, hey, we need you full go all the time. These batters can punish you with 1 swing. We need you full go all the time. And that's a problem. That's a problem, as that these guys aren't pacing themselves. Your car analogy is beautiful. You can't constantly be going full go all the time. If you're into weightlifting, if you're into training, if you max out every day, every time you go to the gym, you're not going to get stronger. It's not good for your body to do that. And you can even do it, not just the guys that throw 100 miles an hour. What about the relief pitchers that, have a plus slider? And where 15, 20 years ago, they'd set up that plus pitch. Now they go, hey, that's a pitch that can get guys out. You throw that pitch 85% of the time. You throw that pitch every batter, unless you're deep behind the gap. 85% of the time, we need you throwing that slider, or we need you throwing that splitter. That's a thing that I think we are dancing around, but I don't think people are zoning in on. Maybe if we don't want to have these problems, if we want these pitchers to have longer careers, they may not be as dominant in the short term, but they'll be better for you in the long term. Tyler Glasnow, getting 40 innings of Tyler Glasnow because he tears up his elbow in June or May, and now you don't get him? What is that? What good does that do for you? I'd rather have 80% of Tyler Glasnow for 170 innings. And that's on top of, now you can ask these guys to go a little longer. Now you can ask your best pitchers, hey, we're not going to get just 150 innings out of Hunter Greene. We want 200 innings out of Hunter Greene, and that's going to require you, Hunter Greene, to take some off every now and then. Now that when we have 2 outs, now that when we're ahead in the count, you can take some off. You don't always have to be going full go. And it starts the whole, you're right, it's not just the major leagues. It's college, it's high school, to where these guys are so obsessed here in high school, local high schools, they're so obsessed with getting recruited and getting to the next level that they're always going full go.
Correct, because your baseball career, for all intents and purposes, depends on it. And that's sad, but that's what, you asked the question, who ultimately starts all this? I'll tell you who starts all this. It's basically it's not the development, it's the scouts. It's the decision makers that get to decide who gets to play at the next level.
Right.
And that's the colleges and that's pros. And the easiest thing that you can do when you come in and you watch a guy throw 15 to 20 pitches, right, in a bullpen session or whatever it may be when you're scouting or recruiting a guy, is how hard does he throw? And I know that this is going to sound crazy. I could go into a monologue for probably a half hour getting into the weeds of as to why this exists. But the truth of the matter is that you have to have an answer on why you recruit kids in college. You have to have an answer. Because head coaches, for those that don't know, the actual head coach of college baseball, very rarely, if ever, I've never seen it, goes out and actually recruits kids. It's assistant coaches. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When that kid comes on campus, you know what you have to have to the head coach when they get there? You have to have an answer as to why the hell he's there. And I got news for you. If you bring a kid in that you think's going to develop, you bring in a kid in that you think you've watched him pitch 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and you think, you know what, this guy's got good pitchability, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I got news for you. If he doesn't come in and he doesn't get guys out right away and he throws 88 miles an hour, they're going to look directly at that assistant coach and say, what in the hell are you doing? Mm-hmm. If another kid comes in and he does the same exact thing, same results, gets hit around, can't throw strikes, whatever, but he throws 95 miles an hour, the head coach will never look at that assistant coach one single time and say, why is he here? They know why he's here, because of the potential that they exist. So you know who gets the more benefit of the doubt? You know who ultimately is going to get recruited over the next guy? It's going to be whoever throws the hardest. And that's the absolute fact. I watched it time and time again when I was on the recruiting circuit. There was a kid that I came in, I watched, he threw 93 miles an hour. He came out of the middle of Pennsylvania. Nobody at all ever heard of the kid. I mean, I remember him because every time you would come into one of these events, you already knew you were here. You heard the names. Hey, this guy's pretty good. This guy's pretty good. Hey, you probably should watch this guy. This came in. Nobody knew him. When I tell you there was coaches scrambling all over the place trying to get roster sheets because sometimes they don't grab them because they just know who they want to come watch. This kid threw one pitch, 93 miles an hour. There was probably 20 different colleges scrambling around to try to figure out what this kid's name was. And when I tell you he threw 2 strikes out of 20 pitches, he threw 2 strikes. The kid, he looked like he never pitched a day in his life, but he threw 93 miles an hour, and he walked out of there that day with about 7 Division I scholarships. That's the real problem. You wonder why kids want to just throw as hard as you can. Doesn't matter. At some point, it's going to come down to what programs and what college coaches, and then later what scouts are looking for, which is, are you ever going to take a chance on the kid that throws 91 miles an hour but can get guys out? And if that continues to be the thing over and over and over again, to where they decide to take the lower end kid that might have more pitchability, then you know what? The phenom, the Bryson DeChambeau of all things, right, will go away. If Bryson DeChambeau plays for 15 years and continues to finish in top 10s in every single major, I can tell you right now what a lot of college golfers are going to start doing. They're going to pull out that TrackMan, and they're going to try to hit the ball literally as hard as I almost said it, as hard as they can, over and over and over again. But if if Bryson DeChambeau gets hurt in 5 years and it looks like that's not a sustainable model, then you know what? We'll go the way of the old. But this isn't rocket science. And you know what it has? Nothing to do with pitch clocks. All right, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got the NFL draft. I seen something when we looked up the mock drafts, I seen something that I still can't believe. How in the world somebody has a professional career as a front office personnel that probably makes a lot of money, can go on nice vacations, has probably a really big rich house, is going to make this decision here in about a week is mind-boggling. It shows you it's the biggest cheat code in life sometimes, is you can just snake your way into being a big wig and everybody thinks you're smart when you're not. And I'll tell you why somebody's going to be not smart after this draft, right after this on 1410 Wing AM. All right, welcome back into a Hump Day edition of Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. A lot of baseball talk on this show today. A lot of baseball talk.
Should be.
Yeah. I mean, listen. If you want to watch, maybe what the mock drafts are going to be in the 5th, 6th round on some of the other stations around what we would call the cable television, go for it. But I will say we're going to do some NFL talk here, which means probably Casey's going to pull that mic a little bit closer to his face than he usually would. Here's the thing. I don't know why every single year this happens, but I guess it does say one thing. It shows you how important one position is in the NFL, and that's the quarterback position. Everybody knows it.
Correct.
And what I'm getting ready to say is maybe more evidence of how important the quarterback position is than anything else. But J.J. McCarthy on a mock draft is slated to go number 3 overall. Number 3 overall. I don't get it. And you know what? There's going to be more clips over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a year of me sitting here telling you straight to your face, and I could be absolutely wrong about this, and it will be the death of me if I am, because there will be so many clips of me saying this that people will obviously at that point think that I don't know ball at all. But I will say this. I said Justin Fields was a fidget spinner, and so far it looks and appears that might be the case. And I'm also going to say this. J.J. McCarthy has no business going in the first round of the NFL draft, and he's going to get selected in the top 5 picks, is what I'm being told. Can someone please explain the rationale? I just want to know maybe I got my blinders on. Maybe I didn't watch the same guy on the best college football team in the country be, quite honestly, the reason they didn't blow some teams out from time to time. Maybe I'm wrong. Had a great offensive line, had some good weapons, throws like 50% in the championship game at best. I don't even know if it was 50%. It might have been 50%.
It's about 50. 10 of 18.
10 of 18.
140 yards.
Threw 140 yards in the national championship game. Had one game earlier in the year. Again, Michigan probably played 4 big games in the entire season, maybe 5 big games in the entire season. In one of those 5 big games, which I'm being very lenient in saying 5, I'd say 4. In one of those big games, he threw the ball, I don't even know, 1 time in the second half.
7 of 8 for 60 yards against Penn State.
Nice. Threw the ball 8 times
against
in a game.
Ohio State.
Efficient.
He was 16 of 20 for 140 yards. This is a guy that, and again, these are their biggest games of the year.
Hyper efficient.
When you need your best players to be good, you want this best player to just not participate. That's what I've gotten from J.J. McCarthy this past season. Again, these are the biggest games of his season. Alabama, he tried to toss it away. I don't know. I'm with Trace. I don't see it. If you waste a draft pick on him, especially if it's, I guess we're going to talk about it, especially if you're the Patriots, what are you doing? You got to have someone better in mind than J.J. McCarthy. You have to.
The Patriots actually shouldn't draft a quarterback. They just I know they need one. They just shouldn't draft one because it doesn't matter who goes there other than, I know I keep saying this about Caleb Williams. I don't think a single quarterback could work there other than a generational talent like Caleb Williams. Like it has to be someone incredible to overcome that. And I just don't think you're going to find that. So they should honestly just slowly build up the roster until it's time to draft a quarterback because whoever goes there is going to fail.
You have New England as the world's biggest dumpster fire, don't you? I mean, you literally
now, yeah.
he thinks anyone short of Peyton Manning or Tom Brady can't go to the. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I mean that's how down you are.
Listen, if you look at what quarterbacks have worked, like what is a copacetic environment for a young quarterback to work, it's pretty simple, right? You got to have an offensive coach, an offensive-minded coach. You got to have weapons. Obviously, C.J. Stroud did it with a defensive-minded coach, but he had pretty good weapons. And you could probably say, looking at C.J. Stroud now, that he was a talent that could overcome that. He could have gone to several different places. But you look across the league, you need a good environment. Joe Burrow got T. Higgins and an offensive-minded head coach like Zach Taylor when he came in. Right? Tua Tagovailoa. He gets Daniels. He gets Daniels down there in Miami with all these weapons. That works, right? These where you are drafted matters. And when you look at the New England Patriots, they have no offensive weapons, none at all. They've got a mediocre to bad offensive line, and they've got a first-year head coach who's a defensive guy who was modeled after Bill Belichick, who has won a lot of games, but wasn't even considered for a job seriously this past year. That's what the rest of the league thinks of Bill Belichick now, and then the New England Patriots just drafted a guy that's only learned from him. Like, it just, they are the Patriots, like I said, God bless whoever goes there. It's just going to be a dumpster fire. Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, any of them, other than maybe if somehow the Patriots got Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams might be able to overcome that. Anybody else, done. Bye. See you later.
Before anyone starts killing Reed, that's if they start year one. They currently have Jacoby Brissett on a one-year deal. I'm assuming he's going to start year one. Whoever they draft, if it is a quarterback, probably going to sit. They have a first-year offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, a guy that we know in Cincinnati. Alex Van Pelt actually coached Brissett in Cleveland in 2022, so they know each other. I'm assuming that they're, like you said, right in the middle of the rebuild. If they do draft someone, I don't expect them to start right away, but they got a lot of work to do. If they were to start year one, I totally agree with you. They would be in a world of hurt.
And I know Trace is about to make this point about how we do this every single year, about we hype up these players, and that's certainly what's happening with J.J. McCarthy. I will throw in this caveat to why it might be different, than what we've seen over the past couple years. The past couple years, I think, were marred, like a lot of things in sports, by COVID. I think you look at the quarterbacks that had come out since 2021, so everyone that would have been in college during the COVID season, and there hasn't been a whole lot of good quarterbacks that have come out of those drafts. And I think a part of the reason is because they lost a year of development with COVID, right? Even if they played that year, they're playing weird, wonky schedules. The Big Ten didn't even play till mid-October, I think. So I think that we are starting to come out of that on the other side, and we're getting guys that have more development. A guy like J.J. McCarthy, who has won a lot of games. And once again, when I look at all of the landing spots, and I think it's so crucial, I think Caleb Williams will work wherever he goes. I think whoever goes to Minnesota will work. I look at the other spots, and I'm not very sure. Those are the only places I'm confident that will get competent quarterback play. Chicago's going to draft Caleb Williams. They're going to get competent quarterback play. Whoever Minnesota drafts, they're going to get competent quarterback play because of the situation that they're inheriting, getting a top-tier receiver, a great secondary receiver, a tight end, and an offensive-minded head coach with a pretty good offensive line in a bad defensive division. So those two things are the only places I feel confident about. And like I said, I don't care who goes to Minnesota. But when it comes to quarterbacks, if I'm a quarterback and I've got my agent, I'm telling New England, I'm not going. I will not play for you if you draft me. I will not play for you because it just won't work. You'll ruin your career.
A couple things. If you are the I see Jolly in the chat. I'm going to get to him in just a minute. And I love Jolly, but he's wrong on Ladd McConkey. And I know people think I'm a homer for saying that. If Ladd McConkey's healthy, he's a very, very good receiver. I mean, an elite receiver.
Agreed.
One of the best receivers I've seen at Georgia since AJ Greene. That's a fact. I mean, when you can't guard him one-on-one. It's nearly impossible. So, we'll see. I'm just going to say that out loud before we get going. J.J. McCarthy, if you're the Patriots, though, really quickly, and Drake May and Caleb Williams come off the board right in front of you, I genuinely don't understand why more NFL teams don't do this. And I know they can't openly come out and say they're going to do it, but I think you just punt. Like you just take the best player available. Yeah. Just punt. You don't need a quarterback.
No,
you're probably going to get a quarterback that you stretched on. Now you're doing the whole same song and dance again. Just know that you're not going to be very good for one more year. Maybe you get lucky. You get another top pick. This year's NFL draft class, when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't think it's all that great anyways, to be honest, outside the first two. Like after that, it just seems like you're just picking out of a hat. So I would take the best player available. The best player in the entire draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. Just take him. Move on. Why do we do this? Why do we want to take J.J. McCarthy?
Well, for me, if I was the Patriots, and I know we've spent a lot of time talking about them, if they don't get Drake May or Caleb Williams, I think they should trade.
Right?
I think they should trade out of the number 3 and get more picks. You can either get Marvin Harrison Jr. and just take your normal draft spots, but they don't have a bunch of extra picks. They need a lot of talent to fill in some of the holes on that roster specifically. I think you trade out of it. You don't have to trade very far to still get someone in this draft class. And if you're looking at like the Vikings, they have picked like 11 and I think 22 or 23 or something like that. I would trade with them and just get a bunch of first and second round picks from them and just, start building out your roster. But I mean, I don't understand the J.J. McCarthy hype whatsoever.
It's good for the teams like the Bengals. It's good for the teams like the I guess the Falcons, for lack of a better term. It's good for some of these teams because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just eating up draft picks of guys that you weren't going to take anyways, and you're going to get the better player available. So kudos to the other teams that don't need a quarterback.
What's crazy is if he does get picked, it puts so much more pressure on teams like the Raiders and Denver that don't have quarterbacks right now. They're looking at the draft board. The first 4 quarterbacks are off the board. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy. And they're like, we got to pick between Bo Nix and Michael Penix this round because if we don't in the first round, who knows what happens in the second. So you could look at potentially there being 5-6 quarterbacks taken in round 1, which is great for the Bengals. Fantastic. Right. We want a team to be in love with J.J. McCarthy. We want a team to feel the pressure of the quarterbacks being taken off the board. We've talked about it already a little bit about JJ. He was benefited so much by guys like Josh Allen who just were so raw. They could make every throw, but were like not great in college. You saw a lot of potential there. That's what JJ is, I guess. But even so, I still don't see it. It's so weird to me that everyone loves JJ. And we keep hearing it time and time again from many different teams.
I would love if JJ actually did fall to like the Vikings with like their 11th pick and the Vikings take him because I would like to be because I think JJ can work. Like I said, I think whoever goes to the Vikings will work at least at some competent level. I don't know that they're going to be a top 10 quarterback or anything like that, but they'll at least be a decent quarterback. Guys, I don't mean to keep bashing the New England Patriots, but Bill Belichick left that place in frickin' ruins. He left that. Listen to their leading receivers from last year.
What a shame. What a shame that guy is. I can't believe he did that to that franchise.
Well, I mean, he won so much, but like the last 5 drafts, I mean,
you
he
think
didn't come close to drafting a competent player. Listen to their targets. This is who the quarterback that gets drafted there is going to inherit. Demario Douglas was their leading receiver. Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, then Ezekiel Elliott. Those are their top 5 receivers. Those are their top 5 weapons last year. And that's who someone's going to inherit. Golly dang, just an abomination that is. Also, will Bill Belichick ever coach in the league again? Because I don't think he will.
Your hatred for the Patriots is astounding because, I mean, would you, if you were a Patriots fan looking back at what they did, would you take this 5 years of mediocrity for
the 20 years of
for the
just
20-year stretch of being
dominance.
the greatest football team to ever walk the planet?
Of course I would. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, but then why are you hating them?
The
He's just
current
saying they're bad.
situation is terrible.
He's just stating some
It's an
facts.
abomination.
He's stating some facts.
It's terrible. And Bill Belichick.
They're
going to
take Marvin Harrison Jr.
They should.
No, they're going to draft a quarterback, which is
So if they draft a quarterback,
right. He's got no
can't.
shot.
I mean,
He's literally got no shot.
Bailey
He's
Zapp-
got no shot.
The
I think Mac Jones was okay.
The ceiling of Bailey Zappi is the ceiling of J.J. McCarthy. In New England.
I agree.
In New England.
Oh, I think you can. I think everywhere actually.
Yeah, Bailey Zappi is J.J. McCarthy. That's who you got. So go get him.
Is he
If you
better
like,
than-
if you listen, if he throws real far in the combine, Zach Wilson had one of the world's best throws in the combine when he went right before he got drafted. You remember that when he was stepped back, threw it 65 yards, perfect. And they're like, oh, this is the throw that got this kid drafted. I hope JJ has a throw like that too.
I think we're all in agreement, and I've been belaboring this point about how important where you land is to your success.
Yeah.
Let's go through these. I'm looking at.
Is that
Peter.
why you love Joe Burrow so much?
I think Joe Burrow got a pretty good situation too. But I like Joe Burrow because he did kind of overcome. Well, he got T. Higgins, who turned out to be pretty good right off the rip, and he got an offensive head coach. Check on the 2 things that you'd probably want if you're going to draft a quarterback. Regardless, let's grade these teams. Just give me a grade on how good of a landing spot it is based on what they've got and what they got looking forward. Chicago Bears. What's the grade you give there?
B+.
I would say B+. The only thing is Matt Eberflus doesn't make a whole lot of sense as their head coach. I think they've got good weapons. They got a lot of draft picks. I agree. Washington Commanders.
C+.
C.
I think getting Cliff Kingsbury works.
Wow.
I think getting Cliff Kingsbury.
I think it's a lot better of a destination.
Correct, but it's C probably makes sense. New England Patriots.
Who's really quickly? Cliff Kingsbury in the NFL has done what exactly?
He made the Arizona Cardinals look pretty good.
Yeah,
with a pretty terrible roster and Kyler Murray, pretty good.
You sure about that? I mean,
I don't know.
Went to the
I don't
playoffs
know.
in that division. Won that division. He won that division with that roster.
I don't think he won that division.
He did. Okay. Well, he won 11 games. Won 11 games.
Okay, keep going.
All right. New England Patriots.
I'm gonna say it's not as bad as you're saying. I don't know. I don't have a reason.
It's the
for
worst
it.
destination.
It's not only the worst destination this year. It's the worst destination in the history of sports.
I don't think Reed is that far off, to be honest, guys. It is horrible there.
I think if they were,
The good news is
New
you got good
England-
weather up
if-
there.
I think New England needs a Pentecostal kind of environment to succeed. Whoever goes there, they're going to need the Holy Spirit to come through and guide them through a season. Because God bless that.
What's the over under on the win total? Do we know that off the top of the head?
I think they have the lowest at like 4.5.
All right, that's tough. 4.5 win total is pretty bad. Not ideal, as some would say.
What do you think about the New York Giants? Because Peter Schrager has the New York Giants going to J.J. McCarthy. I have the New York Giants as like a C minus.
I mean,
that's pretty. Maybe
pretty
even a
bad
D.
too.
That situation doesn't make a whole lot of sense. At the end of the day, there's a few places you want to go, and that's the Bears, the Vikings, maybe the Seahawks.
I think you can make an argument for the Commanders. They've got 3 really great weapons there. But
And I like Cliff Kingsbury has made some pretty good quarterbacks.
yeah.
All right, well, we'll talk about the Bengals. Maybe what some mock drafts have on their end. They got the 18th pick. We all know that's not going to change. Heaven forbid the Bengals make a draft day move. Trades I don't really believe in trades a whole lot around here in the city of Cincinnati, but we'll talk about it. That and more on 1410 Wing AM. All right, welcome back into Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Trace Fowler. Joined as always with the gang. Here's the deal. Final segment of the day. We had been talking about the NFL, obviously, and the question is, what exactly is going to happen? You're going to throw me something? This is real time?
Yeah.
Real time, this is big leagues.
That's just a note for you for this segment.
Okay.
All right.
Well, could you crunch it up any more? Let's see here.
For the radio, I threw him a piece of paper with a hidden message.
Gotcha. You know, some would say on the radio, we could have like a communication system, you know, of like some way, somehow. I'm going to task you guys with that. You know, I don't really do that a whole lot around here. I'm going to say you guys need to be your own little entrepreneurs here. You need to put your big brains together today and be like, what can we do?
I thought that was pretty good communication.
This right here was?
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, first and foremost, I don't believe in the athleticism that you have to be able to throw me this piece of paper every single day and it actually land on
You
my
don't think I
desk.
could do? How many days in a row do you think I can do that?
I'll tell you right now. When this show's over, when we do overtime here, which is on the YouTube channel on Chatterbox Sports, I'll give you 10 throws. I bet 3 of the throws don't even land on the desk.
All right, I'll take that bet.
So we'll see. All right, let's round this out here. We don't have a whole lot of time left on 1410 Wing AM. We want to talk about the Bengals, what they have, an opportunity to perhaps draft. Mock drafts have them all over the place. And I'm starting to wonder to myself, is there anything more useless than a mock draft? Because I don't think that there is. Every year we have all these mock drafts, and then all of a sudden it gets thrown to the woodshed, basically after what we'd call it the first 4 picks of the draft, because somebody's going to trade up. Then all of a sudden what everybody thought was going to happen in logical order doesn't happen. Who's going to be? We're going to do 2 things here in the last 5 minutes of this show. Who's going to be the quarterback in the green room that everybody's going to have their camera on all night long, and they're going to be by themselves because nobody picked them, right? Who's going to be the Aaron Rodgers or the Will Levis? Who's going to be that? And then the second thing would be, quickly, what position group are the Bengals going to take in the first pick? Casey, we'll start with you.
Okay. So answering the first question, who's going to be the quarterback sitting there on draft day wishing they got drafted?
Yep, and we'll make that the chat poll question of the day here in just a moment.
With all the hype
what options do we have? Let's give 4 options. 4 options, Reed.
So, like, Drake May is losing some steam. Drake May's losing some steam.
Really? We think he's going to – all right, we'll add Drake May.
I'm just telling you. Drake May's losing steam. J.J. McCarthy's getting hype.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels is kind of just meandered right there. Everyone knows he's going to be a top 5 pick.
Yep.
Just like, where's he going to go? Then you're looking at guys that might be a first-round pick. They might not be. Guys like Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix. Yeah. But that's pretty much it.
All right, so I think that the 4 options are going to be J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels. I don't think Drake May. Drake May is not. I mean, I don't want to include him as an option.
Out of the thing that you just signified, which is like who are they going to keep putting the camera on because he was supposed to be taken real early.
Yeah, you think it's going to be towards the end of the first round? And he's
I
still
think
gonna
the
be
most
there?
likely scenario, like I think like the person that fits that bill, like everyone assumes that Drake May is going to be taken in the top 3 picks, but he is kind of losing steam. Like I could see Drake May like fall down.
Add him to the list.
Like
you
no
got
one
those 4, Casey?
Yeah, I got those.
No one expects Michael Penix or Bo Nix to be taken in the first 5 picks.
All right, Casey, who do you have? The Bengals, one, who's going to fall? I don't know if you answer that. And then lastly, of those 4 options, who are you picking? And then the position group.
So out of those 4, I think Jaden Daniels is getting less and less hype. I think people are going to come around back again to Drake May. I think he's too good of a talent.
He's too big. He's
too good of a talent to pass up. So that's going to be my guess is Jaden Daniels. I'm going to give who I hope the Bengals target in the first round of the draft, and I hope it's defensive tackle or corner. I don't think offensive tackle is the right way to go.
I think they're going to go offensive tackle. I think that's just what they've done, and I think that's what they're continuing to do. I don't think they're going to draft a pass catcher. I do not think they will draft a wide receiver. I do not.
In the first.
They will draft. Well, 100%. I'm for the first pick. They will not draft a wide receiver or a tight end in the first round. I would bet a large sum of money on it. If they didn't do it last year, they're not doing it this year.
Listen, when it comes to like the Bengals and what they need to do, as long as they have Joe Burrow Like the top priority is going to be getting him weapons and keeping him upright. Whether it makes the most sense in terms of roster construction at the very moment or not, that's going to be top priority, and rightfully so, I think. So I think they're going to take a tackle, and I think they should take a tackle. Listen, we always make the joke, you show up at the roulette table and there's about 9 straight red numbers on the tower, and you're like, hey, man, a black number's got to come up eventually. That's how I feel when the Bengals come to when it comes to the tackle or the offensive line situation drafting guys. We haven't hit in a while. We're due to hit. Might as well. This is a good tackle class too. So, yeah, I'll take a tackle.
Do you think there's any chance they take Byron Murphy if he's there?
That's who's rumored. Like a couple mock drafts have Byron Murphy getting there. I don't know. If he's there, it just depends on other things. I think you can get better talent than Byron Murphy.
Am I okay in saying that there's a chance as to why? And I don't know enough about football. I'm a casual to a certain extent. Maybe someone can correct me here if I'm speaking out of turn. But is there a chance that maybe that has something to do with the concept of the pre-planned draft idea and the plans? Is that they think that is going to be available? They knew that maybe a couple months ago, and that was the decision they decided on a DJ Reader. I don't even know, again, to be clear, if that's even the same.
I don't think you can overly plan for anything when it comes to the draft. Listen, last year's draft, I don't think they anticipated taking an edge rusher. I think it just happened, right? Like Miles Murphy fell to them, and they're just like, oh, sure, this guy.
They loved him so much.
Right. Well, he was a top 10 pick grade a month before the draft. Obviously, fell all the way down to him, but I don't think you can overly plan for anything when it comes to the draft. I would like a tackle. If we get a defensive tackle, I don't care anyway. And I don't think there's a position that I hate. I don't think there's like, if we draft this, I'm gonna be pissed. I don't think.
Well, of course not, because you're of the two sides that we've talked about time and time again. You are on the overly optimistic side of Bengals Nation, and I do appreciate that.
Edge rusher would make me mad.
Edge
rusher would make me mad.
Edge rusher would actually make him mad. Finish out the show, Elliot. Really quickly, guy that falls the farthest, and then on top of that, give me who'd you say was going to fall the farthest?
Hopefully, I'm hoping JJ falls, but it won't happen. So I'll go Bo. I voted Bo.
You're going Bo. I'm going to go JJ because I just can't. I can't do it. Like I hope to God that obviously I don't get clipped up for this, but I just can't imagine a scenario. And you know what I do hope? I hope JJ goes to Minnesota for 2 reasons. One, I'd love to have him in the North. I'd love to have him in the North. And I love the idea of being able to see him play with what Reed says is the most competent, the best spot you could possibly land as a quarterback in this draft. So we will find that out.
Do you have an argument against that?
I don't have an argument against it. I just think that it's phenomenal that JJ McCarthy is getting this much love, this much.
It's not even about JJ. I'm talking about the Vikings take.
I think they stink. We'll find out. I just think they stink. Sometimes your run's over.
One last note.
Last note. We got to go.
Warren Sharp, NFL. Robert Kraft called Arthur Blank to warn him to not trust Bill Belichick. Kraft was a big part of why the Falcons passed on hiring him.
Ooh.
Kraft found Bill to be extremely difficult and obstinate and kind of stubborn, and in the end, not worthy of his trust.
So I was reading
very arrogant.
At the beginning of the show, ESPN dropped an article about how Bill Belichick didn't get a job, and I was reading it, like perusing it when you're talking to Tom and certain things like that. That's when I wasn't locked in a whole lot because I was reading this, and it was incredibly interesting. So Bill Belichick took a couple of
we got
interviews.
It in the show.
Oh, we got
Reed doesn't understand. Reed doesn't understand the radio. But you know what? If you want to listen to this conversation, you can go to our YouTube channel. Yeah. It'll be on there. Chatterbox Sports. We love you. Kenner and Kev next on 1410 Wing AM.
My bad.
All right, go for it.
Continue.
Okay, sorry. So, like, it was incredibly interesting because, like, Bill Belichick did an interview with the owner of the Falcons and then met with the executives, and he left assuming that the job was his.
Ooh.
He left assuming that the job was him. The executives and the owners wrote down their list of candidates, their top 3 candidates out of everyone that they interviewed. Bill Belichick wasn't in anyone's top 3. He thought he had the job, and not a single person in that room wanted to touch him with a 20-foot pole. Isn't that crazy? This guy might be the greatest NFL coach of all time, and no one wants him. How bad of a human do you like? How arrogant or off-putting do you have to be that unhireable?
Well, I think it was. I mean,
and it's also the game is like it's clear that you just don't have it anymore.
Not saying that like how people act with the media is everything, But there is quite literally not a worse head coach that has dealt with the media than Bill Belichick. I mean, every time Bill Belichick came up to the mic and they asked him, like, hey, Bill, like, what didn't work tonight? He's like, well, what do you think? It didn't work. I just wasn't very good today.
Can we get to something?
What are we doing? And it's just like, I don't get it. Bill was bad with the media. I imagine he was bad with everybody in the front office. I think players respected him because they won 6 Super Bowls. Other than that, he's whatever.
Can we get to something?
What?
Have you looked at this poll?
What did he fix it again?
He didn't
No. I fixed the poll, but I apparently I'm misspelling someone's name.
I
But
mean,
don't think I'm
there's not
misspelling
been one Michael in the history of Michaels, Casey, that's spelled like that. And then on top of that, his last name is not spelled that either. When I say that you couldn't have possibly misspelled Michael Penix's name wrong more than you did, I don't think it's humanly possible to do.
Listen,
first of all, Michael, okay, the A more times than not is before the E.
That's McKeel Penix.
Let's start there.
McKeel Penix.
Listen, the first time I did the initial
What about
poll,
J.J.
it was
McCarthy,
spelled correct.
Casey? Did you ever consider maybe putting some capital letters in that or no?
No.
Originally, he didn't have J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah,
in the
originally
poll,
I didn't have it in the
which
poll,
was
so
silly.
that's
That
I
was
started
the whole
to
point
panic.
of the poll.
Started to panic, and so I was just typing in the names as fast as I could. So I just
So
No,
basically,
I'm not
you
great
got
at spelling.
panicked over there.
Mouse
Those-
Cop
those-
says
you were
Mouse
rushing.
Cop thinks you should be fired. Do you agree with him?
Well, spelling was a big part of this job. I probably should be fired, to be honest with you. I can't spell worth a damn. Just can't.
Somebody
not
clip
under
that.
pressure.
Somebody clip that, please. Just like that little small. What do you say? I can't spell worth a damn.
Want to do a quick spelling bee before we leave today?
Yeah, let's do. Let's do it.
Not this
We got 4 minutes left on off the bench. Box lunch coming up. Coming up next.
All right.
Is that what we're doing? All right. Love that.
All right, Casey. You're gonna have to spell the word missile.
Missile.
Missile. This is a good one.
Ooh, MISSILE.
Yes. All right, 1 for 1. If he goes 3 for 3, I'll give him $1.
Ooh, $1.
Let me look.
This is taking a while. You got this.
Neurological.
Oh,
buddy.
That's a good.
NUER.
No, you lost it right away.
What is it?
It's NEUROLOGICAL.
Imagine that.
You were close. You were close. You were
I'll give you an easy one. I'll give you another one.
Sounding it
Casey,
out.
I'll end it with an easy one.
That's what they
You can
teach
get
you
this
in
one.
Blanchester.
Casey,
Sound it out, Casey.
This is topical because of this week. Tax.
Nice.
Tax. T-A-X.
Yeah.
Tax.
Yeah, you got that one.
Nice. Good job.
Ellie Roo, spell guaranteed.
GUARANTEE.
That's right. That's
right.
That one gives me fits. That in restaurant.
Restaurant kills me.
Restaurant.
I can't do restaurant. I never will be able to do it.
Calendar gets me too.
Calendar?
Oh yeah. How
Really?
do you spell calendar?
CALENDAR.
Yeah, I spell it with
A,
yeah.
and then an E at the end.
Here,
Correct.
hey, we're gonna wrap the show up just like this. Ready? We got 3 minutes. Box lunch next. Elliot, I didn't forget. We're gonna keep track at home. Make sure you get this whole desk in the shot here. Okay. Here, I got you your deal.
Okay, thank you. I'll use this one.
Make another one.
I was gonna make one anyway.
I think that proves my
You
point.
said 10 times,
10 times. I think that you have.
and I have to land on the desk, or I just have to get to the desk and.
I think it's got to be something that I could be able to
Okay.
grab. You know?
All right.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
All right.
Go.
That's good.
All right. I'll give you one. Here, you want me to throw them back to you?
No, well, if you can.
I think I certainly can.
Here we go.
1 for 1.
Here we go.
Don't get no pressure. Oh, 1
I
for
lost.
2. Tough.
I lost.
All right.
Got it?
Got it. Good thing I have some hands over here, by the way. That was a little left.
A little left. I was trying to get it in the cup.
Melee would have dropped
I
it.
was trying to get it in the cup.
Yep. 1 for 2. What are we? 3 for. You're going fast
2.
now.
2 for
3
4.
for 5.
Oh, sure. 3 for 5. Even better.
Is it? You've missed 3. 3 for 6.
Okay.
Ooh.
That was good.
Okay, what are we at? Nobody knows. Chat, what are we at? Stop. Pause.
4 for 7.
4 for 7,
4 for 7.
which would be better than 3 for 10 already. So. Ooh.
And by the way, I was
that.
trying to go for the cup on 2 of them. So.
Yeah. This is actually much better than I thought. Okay.
So I think my system's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, other than me having to like uncrinkle it while we're on the radio and have to read it, yeah.
Casey, get a shot on this cup. If this goes in, I'll give everybody in this room.
I'll tell you what. Right now, you ready for it?
Yeah.
Whatever we've gotten in super chats over the past 2 shows on this program. Thank you, Reed. Sometimes my brain's just not all there on the West Coast trips. We'll match it. We'll match it.
I actually do.
Oh, look at this.
One of these numbers here.
Look at this.
Okay, now listen. What I need you to do is I need you to show it and then cut.
Of course, yeah.
You gotta show them and then cut.
All right.
I think we should just do all of our shows like this. This is what real people are looking for.
Yeah. So what am I doing here?
Well, he's gonna show you throwing it and he's gonna switch it to the cup.
All right. Here we go.
Which one are you going for, by the way?
I'm gonna go for the.
You're going for the mug. Yeah.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh.
Here. We'll give you. You want to play a game?
I feel like you're worse at this than I am.
Yeah, because I don't think you can catch. That was what I worried. That was what I was worried about.
Okay.
Right there.
You ready? Oh. All right. That's it.
All right. Well, Casey's gonna have to do some maneuvering on cameras. There it is. Thank you for watching Off the Bench. Box lunch next, which means you need to be a member. If you're not a member, we still love you anyways, but some would say love you more if you were. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for watching.